お、はいはいはい、こんにちは。ごめん。ソロへようこそ。ソロがサスケしたポッドキャストを見ています。Let's go! 3、2、1. Hello there, my anime people. This is Seoul Spectates. I am Seoul, and welcome back to my podcast. So, today's anime that we're going to be reviewing is Gleipnir. So, let's get into it. Breakdown. This anime came out in spring 2020, so it's still fairly new at the time that this is being recorded. It has a genre of action, mystery, supernatural, and ecchi, and this is rated R. It received a score of 6.88 out of 10, and this is coming from my anime list, where 26,520 users voted. The studio that's creating this anime is called Pine Jams, and it has other animes that are very good. Some of them I have not seen, but I did recognize one called Just Because, which is definitely a must-watch. So, let's get into the synopsis breakdown. So we first start off with Shuichi Kaguya. This is our male protagonist, and for some reason he has become a monster, right? Unexplainable, don't know why. It's just one day he woke up and now he has these abilities that he just cannot explain. And he later on finds that there was a fire happening up a mountain. So he goes up to investigate and he can smell Claire Aoki. And this is our second protagonist. She's incapacitated. She's on the ground in this burning building. And Shuichi transforms and saves her. Well, he kind of does something that is not right, and later on, he hopes that she won't recognize him since he was in his transformative state, so he doesn't look like himself when he's a monster. Later on, Claire wasn't actually completely unconscious, and she has his phone because he must have dropped it somewhere and she took it. So she uses it to blackmail him. And from here, we start this adventure of trying to figure out what happened to Shuichi. Why is Claire involved in this? And what is going on? And this is where our adventure begins. Okay, so now I'm going to get into the non-spoilery section of this review. We're only going to be going over the first 6 episodes that are currently out thus far for this first part 1. And then I'm going to be going into the episodic breakdown, which is a more spoilery section for those of you who have watched this anime show. So far my thoughts on this anime is it's very good. It is very well executed. I enjoy a lot of the character scenes where they're interacting. Claire is a very strong-headed, very confrontational. She does not take shit from anyone, and she is really my kind of girl. She is a little bit not there in the head. She does have her quirks, I guess you can say, and Shuichi, he, to me, has the most character growth. Shuichi is very timid, shy, at least in the beginning of the anime. Timid, shy, tries to fit in as much as possible. He's not really trying to stand out. He's good at sports, so he's good in the gym. He has good grades. He just doesn't know where he should go or where his life should take him, just because you can clearly tell that he has done everything correctly and it's not for himself but for others. So you see this a lot in him where he is trying to seek not only approval but acceptance, and he will do anything in his power to not let that change or be corrupted or have people's image of him be a little bit different. So that's where you kind of meet these two characters at this point in time. And unknown to you, they have more of a connection than what they believe they initially thought would be, which is very good character development, and I enjoy that a lot. So there is a bit of a mystery, and it's basically where Shuichi got his abilities. And the way the anime explains it, I was kind of not expecting it. It was very coming from South End, not something I surely understand why necessarily I feel like there could have been other ways to explain it, but this is, I feel like, the most simplest way to not really have to go in depth, because knowing how they explain it, it kind of wraps up everything neatly without having too much questions. Obviously, more background stuff, but that will come later on. And the way the episode starts off is actually a bang. It doesn't take that long to really get into it, like some other animes or some other mysteries, like Another, where it took fucking 30 years, or, you know, like 3 whole episodes before we start getting into action, we start getting into the mystery, because no one wanted to talk about it. This one, it like jumps into it with, you know, what's going on, why is this happening, how can we stop it, and it really shows the bonds of the two characters really growing. And as they introduce characters to kind of complicate the plot, it's done very well. You get a sense that these characters are not one-dimensional, which is what a lot of anime shows tends to have issues with, making characters very flat, very, you know, she's a bitch, so everything she does is bitchy, like, kind of trope. So it's very nice to see that they're not doing it for this one, and they're really taking their time to really elaborate on their characters, even the ones that may not have a lot of screen time or are only shown for a split second. You can definitely tell that there's so much depth into these characters, so it's really nice to see that. And the mystery is very interesting, not only how people are maneuvering it and taking it, but also kind of the overarching story that is definitely going into. So where in most anime shows within, you know, 12 episodes, I'm assuming this one's going to be 12, they tend to do mini subplots, and then it later on leads into the overarching storyline, whereas this one actually has an overarching storyline from beginning to end, so we're already starting off with it without having to do kind of side stuff, which is very refreshing to be able to do in this anime show. So definitely must watch. I love it so far. I'm having such a great time really seeing the characters, seeing what happens when they're in certain situations, and I honestly cannot wait to see the next 6 episodes. It's going to be great. So you have to watch it. I'm telling you, you're going to be missing out. So at this point, I'm going to move into the episodic breakdown, and this is a more spoilery section. So if you have not seen this anime show, please be advised, this is your warning. There are heavy spoilers coming up right now. So if you have not watched it, please pause this podcast and go over and watch it. You have been warned. All right, so now let's get into our episodic breakdown. Okay, so in episode 1, I enjoyed the way they set everything up. You first see kind of the mystery unfold with someone trying to find this coin, and then going to this hotel mythos and putting it into this drinking machine, which to me was kind of just like, what the fuck? Like, she over here panting and running to get a coin, to get a drink, but then it continues going on with showing a guy coming out of the machine. And this is where you really start getting a sense that something big is really happening in Japan. And I really love this setting of kind of not really explaining who this person is, but kind of showcasing what is happening. And then this particular part is important because it leads up to kind of who that person is and how they are connected to the mystery itself, which I really love. It's almost kind of like Beastar in the way that they start with the murder of the student and not knowing who that person is, and kind of putting that in the back of your mind as you're watching the anime show until the very end. You kind of get this unveiling that this person is more important to the plot than you really assume to be. And this is exactly what's happening here in Gleipnir, which I really enjoy that. So some of the issues I've had with episode 1, I did not like when Shuichi went to save Claire, and for some reason, so apparently Claire wanted to go kill herself. You're not sure as to why, because you're not introduced to her, but you know, something must have happened that would push her to, do this. And she sets the building on fire, but her top is unbuttoned. You can see her bra. I was not completely sure as to why that was a thing. Makes no sense, was not necessary, but it was there. And then when Shuichi saves her, dragging her out of the fire, he starts to, for whatever reason, like, we're supposed to believe that as he's in his transformative state, he's more primal and more animalistic and not really able to be human and discerning what's right and wrong. So he starts taking off her panties. Why? Literally why? And I'm not saying like anime shows can't do that, but I'm hoping that later on this anime show is going to really showcase what happens when Shuichi is maybe stays in this monster state for too long and he's not able to truly control himself. So I hope that this is a continuation of how, as he continues to use these abilities, it's really eating at his humanity, other than just let's showcase this sexual harassment for no reason, because it happens on an anime where sexual harassment does happen and they do it as a comedic thing or as a joke. So hopefully it's really not that. So, and the other thing too is it wasn't even necessary. I mean, him transforming into a monster to save her and her having his phone is pretty much enough for her to blackmail him into doing what she needs him to do. We didn't need the added sexual harassment as a tie to like bond them together. I didn't like that. It was kind of weird. I didn't understand that. So I didn't like that. I did like the fact that you were able to see the states in which both characters are mentally, and you can clearly tell that this is to show where they're at, and then later on to show their growth and how they've changed. Although Shuichi kind of changed a little bit too fast, at least initially in the first couple of episodes, which I was not expecting at all. So another thing I didn't like was the fact that Claire was going to go off herself, and she, after being saved by Shuichi, starts to manipulate him and use him because she is trying to find her sister, which is not explained as to why in this episode, but basically her sister, you assumed, killed her parents, which to me right off the bat, I don't believe that. She may believe that. I don't believe that. If it's one movie rule, is that if a death happens outside of the scene and they're explained to you, then it did not happen. Because if it did happen, the producer would have showed you that. They would film that and show you what actually happened physically. So the fact that I'm supposed to believe that this happened, I'm kind of just like, I don't feel like this happened. I feel like this is supposed to be like a plot twist or something that's going to be revealed later on. But that's besides the point. So if she was going to want to find out what happened to her sister and everything else, why was she going to go off herself? Am I supposed to believe that she was setting a trap to maybe lure one? What happened if one never came? Just completely baffled at that particular thing, because seeing her personality, is seeing how crazy she is and seeing how willing she is to do whatever it takes to find out where her sister is, find out the truth and kill her. I'm supposed to believe that this character with this personality was just going to go off herself. That doesn't make any sense to me. So maybe there's more. We don't know. There's still a couple more episodes left. So maybe there is a change. But as of right now, that'll make no sense at all. I did like the fight scene. The fight scene was very well done. The punches felt very directed and with actual intent to harm someone else. So all of that was very believable. It was very good. And we end the episode with such a cliffhanger of that battle happening and then kind of where it leads to them. And now we're going to jump into episode 2. So in episode 2, we get sort of like a little retelling of the events that led up to this random chick kind of crashing in and starting this whole battle with them because she wanted a coin. And I really like this scene of following a different character and kind of wondering, like, why the fuck are we following this character's perspective, until we are led to see the events that unfolded that led up to the moment that we see with our characters and what they're having to deal with the introduction of this character trying to fight. Another thing I did like was the alien. So what happens is the alien crashed into Earth, and I guess his brethrens like split and like went across Japan, and they're in the shape of these coins that if they return to him, they get to have a drink and they get a wish come true. It doesn't matter what the wish is, you just get it come true. And he's just trying to collect them, so he couldn't care less what he's giving them. So you kind of see her kind of wishing for faster legs, and he turns into a monster because of it, which can still make her really fast. Like, so she's a fast type, but she's a monster, So I do like this because it reminds me of the original genie-esque thing, or even like the ones that they use in like Wizard of Waverly Place, where you can have a wish, but the wish is literal, or it's not how you expected it to be, even though the wish is complied with. So I did enjoy that. Something else that was really cool during this episode was, so you see that Shuichi has a zipper in his back, and it's so funny. Like, I never put it together that he's basically almost a mascot, where like costume where like you can unzip him and go in. So Claire unzips him. This was during the little intermission of the battle where Shuichi kind of escapes from that random chick that's trying to attack them for a coin, and they kind of have a little time to talk, him and Claire, and she notices the zipper and she's just like, well, let's try this. Like, there's really nothing else that we can do at this moment since Shuichi isn't really much of a fighter. So they unzip it and you see all the flesh. I was like, oh god, that was nasty. But she goes in. Now, this part I did not necessarily like, because somehow they sexualize her going into basically, if you think about it, like a bag of flesh. And I was just like, oh, this is kind of weird. Like, I did not like that. I did understand that when she was going in, it was like she was entering Shuichi's body and mind, and how now they've become, in a sense, one with each other, because they can sense each other's feelings, they can sense each other's memories. But when it comes to autonomy of moving a body, Shuichi is able to move it, but it's the person that's inside that's able to have primary control over it. And then, the battle ensues and they win, so that part was cool. Now, the next nasty part was when she comes out of Shuichi, which, again, somehow they're making it sexual. I don't know why, because that's not really what I would assume to be sexy. So it was an interesting perspective that they were trying to showcase, to say the least. So at this point, you can kind of tell that Claire is crazy sexy bitch status. And it's funny because I saw this YouTube video about breakdowns on tropes using the crazy girl in different movies. So, and I believe there's like 4 different categories. Like, it's crazy and cute, psychotic and sexy. So like they have like their different levels and different things that allows them to distinguish each other and how they're used in movies. So I can definitely see how this applies to Claire, where they're trying to make her seem very cute, not necessarily shy, but very to herself, kind of like a wallflower, and she still likes to do girly stuff. And later on the episode, not this one, like in the third one, Shuichi wants to watch a movie and she's like, oh, why didn't you ask me? Like, I want to go. And he's like, really? You would like to go on a date with me? Like, that's what's funny to me. But again, it was really showcasing the type of crazy sexy bitch they're trying to make her out to be, whereas like she's crazy in that department, and then she has the cute stuff and very high school girl type of trope, but also she is willing to kill and shoot anything. Very much, I believe her name is Inori? No, that's not her name. That's from Guilty Crown. I think it was. Oh, this is gonna kill me. I know it's from Future Diary. This is really gonna bother me. What is her name? Fuck, this bitch is so crazy too, and it will work perfectly. Wait, give me 1 second. Okay, so I looked it up. Where was giving very waifu vibes of being very cute and very protective and all of that, and then she's a manipulative, vindictive, psychotic, egotistical bitch, and it was wild seeing that two jarring personality traits. But the difference is that they're trying to make Claire not necessarily the same thing, but still being crazy, psychotic, but yet cute and approachable kind of thing, where you can still say, "Oh, that's so cute, I love her," but at the same time, it's just like, don't forget that she's crazy, kind of thing. So it's an interesting trope that they're trying to use for this one. It's not always used just because it's very hard to balance that. Because if they make her too crazy, too vindictive, too psychotic, then it's kind of off-putting. And if they make her too cute and too fragile, then it's confusing as to how she can have this side of her nature-wise, unless she's just trying to use it as a way to hide it, but she's clearly not trying to. So it's very interesting to see that. So now we're going to move into episode 3. So in this episode, the only thing I really want to talk about that was a very crazy moment and something I really do like. It reminded me very much Death Note-esque with the conversation of Light Yagami and the female detective, and how they were playing this mental game of trying to figure out her true name, and her not knowing who he is and still having that discussion, like that kind of cat and mouse kind of thing. I really do enjoy that from Death Note, and I can see that here where Shuichi and Claire were able to find Claire's sister, and initially Claire's already inside Shuichi because they're in the monster state, which is fine because it's funny, I keep calling him monster because that's what Shuichi calls it, but he just looks like a plushy bear. Anyway, so Claire's sister thinks that it's Shuichi that's doing it, trying to kill her. And she's like, okay, like, if you want to kill me, like, let's go somewhere else. And at first I was just like, are you joking? Are you really gonna let him kill you? So that's when you start piecing it together that the girl in the beginning that was frantically trying to look for a coin and get something is possibly Claire's sister, and then you start to understand that maybe there's more to this, that they are connected that we don't know. Claire's sister and Shuichi specifically. So after, they go to this location that she deems fit for him to kill her, which to me was kind of confusing because it was still in an open area, so don't know how that works. But we're gonna continue. So Claire's sister is talking, and she's saying, I'm so sorry, I did not mean for this to happen to you, you gotta understand, giving an explanation, which Claire is assuming is to her because she thinks that her sister knows that she's inside here. And then when she apologizes to Shuichi, that's when she was like, oh no, like, she doesn't know that I'm here. So when she starts talking, Claire's sister gets triggered, like trigger. And she just rips off Shuichi's head. And I'm just like, did we just lose our main protagonist? It was very well done because you, as the audience member, did not know who she was talking about, because at this point you still don't know her connection to Shuichi and whether or not they've even met, because it doesn't even seem like he's even spoken to her before or even has met her. And then all of a sudden you see the switch up of her then talking to who she assumes to be Shuichi, even though it's really to Claire that she's having this discussion with. And Claire is not accepting the apology, but kind of really listening. And then when it was Shuichi, that's when she was very pissed off, because she was just baffled how she could be apologizing to Shuichi, even though she owes her an apology too. And that's when things kind of get all muddied and that fight kind of ensues. And that's kind of like the main thing that I really want to discuss about in episode 3, which to me was like the best thing. So now we're going to move into episode 4. So in this episode, I mean, you kind of get to see the interaction with Claire, the sister, and the sister was kind of like, oh my god, what the fuck did I did? I just ripped off the guy that I like his head off and all this other stupid shit. Then after the fight is basically over, which, I mean, Claire's sister kind of looking OP to me, but Claire is going to kill herself because I believe it was in episode 2. She basically made a pact with Shuichi, which is their lives belong to each other. So if Shuichi dies, she dies, and if she dies, Shuichi dies. So they basically had some type of suicide pact, which is, I'm assuming it was supposed to be romantic, and people were just like, "Aw, like she can't live without him." But to me, it's kind of, not needed. So she is going to kill herself, but Shuichi starts talking. He's like, "No, I'm still alive," which to me, I'm kind of, how are you alive? I mean, even if you are this creature and you're empty inside and whatever, how is it possible that because your head is ripped off that you're still able to talk? I'm assuming it's somehow to do with him resembling a costume. So it's not explained, but we clearly need him alive. So they go to the alien guy, they get more information, and this is my favorite part, where the assumption is that the alien is giving fairly menial wishes to come true, but the alien explains that he cannot give a rat's ass what happens to this planet. He's only here to collect his brethren and then be out. So if someone wishes for the world to be over or for them to rule over everyone, then he's going to do that. He doesn't care less. So now Claire kind of shifts a little bit, where she's, I want to save the world and also know where my sister is. And the thing is, meeting Claire in the first episode, she was manipulative in the first place, and she would do anything it would take to get what she wants. So I'm a little bit confused that now she's like our heroine, but okay. So the other thing that happens that I was talking about for episode 1, which is Shuichi's little switch up in like 3 seconds of his growth. So when he comes into class, after Claire was able to help him get his head reattached when he was still a monster, with the help of the alien, because it did have a coin and that was kind of like their wish, Shuichi goes back to school and he's completely different. He initially wears glasses, where now after transforming into the monster, he doesn't really need it anymore, but he kept wearing it just to be, I guess, normal, quote unquote. So now he doesn't have his glasses on. Where he used to be non-confrontational, he is confronting people. Like, he bumped into this guy and the guy was like, "Excuse me." He's like, "Excuse you." He was ready to punch him, and then his friend came in. I was like, why the friend has to come in? Like, Shuichi was gonna whoop this guy's ass. That was great. But to me, it was so exponentially quick, and I'm assuming that their reasoning for this, for trying to explain how he has grown so quickly in such a short amount of time, is just being put in a difficult situation that's not easy, that involves deaths and changes, and he cannot be the same person that he used to be, because it would literally kill him if he is still trying to be this nice. That is why he grows exponentially quick. That's my assumption for why they would do it this way. So in episode 5, my favorite thing about this one is the way it opens, which is you see this girl walking around the mountains, and these group of people are kind of just like, so what you doing here? And she's like, oh, just trying to see how things look up here, very cute, very nice. And the guys are just like, bullshit, like, you're here for coins. And I was kind of like, girl, you definitely know there are so many trails probably closer to Japan that doesn't require you to go to a restricted area in a mountain. So clearly you're there for coins. I don't know why you came up with that lie. You tried it, but it did not work. So all of a sudden, I initially think, because every time, I tell you, every time an anime shows when they set up, this girl trying to do something and then comes up with a group of guys, she always, I don't want to go in details. I guess the short end of the stick is basically what I'm trying to say. But this time, she's just like, oh, you think I was just going to roll over? No. She transforms and starts fighting. I was like, yes. Love me some strong woman moments. So, episode was very good. A lot of more action scenes, which I loved. And you kind of get to see this cool moment where Claire basically saying, like, we need to get information, which is smart. I get it. You need information to know what's going on with this situation, and information is key if you want to progress. But do you really want to ask information to something that looks so threatening, so 2 times the size, so it can kill you just with sight alone, let alone its arms and everything else, that she wants to walk up to something that threatening and be, so do you have any information, and think that she wasn't going to get into a fight? That to me was completely stupid. But this scene, it was towards the end of the battle where, and this is where you get to see having, I guess you could say, 2 bodies worthwhile, was when Shuichi basically runs at the guy and grabs him, and the guy thinks that he's going to be able to kill Shuichi. But the thing is, your assumption is that Claire is still in that costume, but she is not. She's actually outside, and she has Shuichi's gun. So she shows up from the back, and then the guy gets completely confused. He's like, wait, so do you control him? Is he a different entity? And that's when he figures out that they're just 2 separate people. Claire is a regular human. Shuichi is the one with the powers. But he's basically cornered, and he is going to die if he doesn't give up. And they end up making a pact with this really strong guy in order to work together, which Claire obviously is like completely happy about that, since she has more muscles now to kind of do what she wants to do. And that fight scene was good because not only are they using obviously brute strength, but they're also using their minds and using the fact that there's 2 people, and also using the fact that no one knows of this, because everyone assumes that whoever is fighting is only one entity, but there are 2 people. So that was just beautiful. Loved that so much. So, they're gonna work together. So now they're a group of 3, and there was like a different creature that was taking pictures of them, and then comes out saying, oh, I have the way you guys look, and obviously that's like information that can be used against you. But the strong guy ends up killing him. Although, on a side note, please tell me, anyone, that character looks like a Titan, like from Attack on Titans. Like, he looks like a Titan. Like, there's no way you're gonna tell me that his character wasn't somewhat taken inspiration from that show, because I am not buying it. They did not just come up with it. Yeah, they may have made him green, but I could see that from a mile away. So now in episode 6, we get to meet this group that we end up finding out that the green guy that looked like a Titan that gets killed was also taking pictures of other people. And Claire was able to tell that he was blackmailing one of their group members. And this is what she kind of gets to get to get introduced to them, because her assumption is there's more strength in numbers. And to me, okay, there was a couple issues I did not like with this episode. So what I did like was the explanation of the leader that's controlling that pack. And she has the power to make sure that no one can betray her or not tell anything that she doesn't want them to, and it gets more information about how power or wishes gets granted from the alien. So if you don't have a clear vision of what you want, the alien kind of takes the liberty of finessing it a little bit, whereas if you actually have a clear, concise point as to why this was happening or what kind of wish you want to have granted, the more specific, the more easier it is for the alien to grant you exactly what you want. So that was actually a cool little tidbit that was nice. Then comes the ritual to make sure that Claire doesn't betray the group. First, the leader starts doing sexual stuff. I was like, here we go. The show being sexual for no reason other than just to be sexual. And at first I was like, okay, so this is the ritual. This is what's going to get the pact done. And then halfway through, she was just like, oh yeah, this is not the pact. The pact is me taking strands of my hair, I guess, like braiding it into a cord and then tying it around your neck. And then it becomes a part of you. So if you do betray me, that then becomes tighten until it basically chops off your head. So I was so baffled. What was the point of that other than just, I guess, giving people fan service? But this wasn't really fan service. She was being sexually harassed, and somehow, I mean, at least Claire was just like, no, I wasn't comfortable with it. And the leader, was inclined to oblige that and saying, you know what, okay, fine, I'm not gonna punch it. But did she do this with the other team members, or did she just particularly singled out Claire? I don't know that, but I did not like that at all. So Shuichi is talking to Chihiro, which is someone in the group, and she explains to him that she lost her wallet in the mountain. That to me is like, girl, really? First of all, what are you bringing your wallet all the way up in the mountain for? You don't need that. Stop that. And the fact that you weren't even careful enough to... I'm not even going to get into it. So, Shuichi, with his newfound bravado now, decides to wants to help her and goes out. And this camera guy, which is the one that was being blackmailed by the big green thing that then Claire uses to, like, get that in for the group, he then follows them, and he's able to record. That's why I call him, like, camera guy. So he's seeing Chihiro basically going inside of Shuichi, only because Shuichi told Chihiro that her scent is mixing in the air, so it's hard for him to pinpoint where her specific wallet is if they're walking together. So she gets in so that he's not able to do it. And somehow the camera guy gets jealous of that. I was so bewildered. He was already giving me that nice guy complex of him saying, well, I'm such a nice guy and I'm attentive and listening, so I feel like you should date me. I did not like that for his character. But obviously, like, there is more to him, so he is fleshed out. It's just what we are initially seeing him do. So we get a little bit more information about the mystery, which I do like. So you know that the leader actually has a connection to Erena, which is Claire's sister, and they went to school together, and she gives her kind of information about that. And then the episode basically ends with Erena walking with, it seems like her little squadron is just two other guys, and one of the boys that she's with, his name is Subaru. He finds Chihiro's wallet, and that's kind of where it ends. And you already know we're building up to another good fight scene. So this is it for the episodic breakdown. So overall, so far the anime is doing really good job to really establish our characters, seeing their growth, seeing their changes, and getting them into different situations while still following this overarching storyline that's really good. The mystery is I'm hoping it's incredibly done, because so far it's really taking me and really wanting me to follow it day by day and really trying to see where is this leading, because I'm very interested to see why Elena decides to lie to her sister. Well, I'm assuming she's lying to her sister. I'll be shocked if she wasn't, but it also seems that Elena is planning something, and I'm interested to see, because their growth is like crazy. I mean, you see Elena being a nice, timid person to now having this mastermind plot, which has to do with Subaru, the boy that she's with, and he's supposed to be very strong, apparently, but we don't know exactly what she's planning, why she's planning it. We don't know why she decided to turn Shuichi into that monster and what that connection was. I mean, clearly it was, I'm assuming the wish is something to do with her wanting to get close to him and really become one, and I'm assuming that's why he became something that can allow other people in him to become one. So I'm assuming that's kind of maybe what she wished for. So there's that. There's, a race against who's going to collect all these coins. Where is this spaceship that has the rest of that these people are trying to look for? How is this group going to work? Where, so much questions, and hopefully we get answers very soon in these next upcoming 6 episodes. So thank you for tuning in to Seoul Spectates. I am Seoul and I'm signing off. Sayonara.